Hi, I'm Jess, and welcome to my channel where I talk about bookish things. I used to love reading historical fiction, but it felt like partway through high school I just stopped reading it for some reason. Well, I'm pretty sure it's because I kind of outgrew the teen section at the library, and the general fiction, where historical fiction was found, was just overwhelming, so I avoided it and just stuck with sci-fi fantasy, which is a much smaller section. But historical fiction is something that I'd like to get back into reading. So if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comment section. But for now, I'm going to talk about probably my two favorite historical fiction books that I've ever read. They're both more in the YA category, because again, I was into historical fiction when I was a teenager. The first is To Dance at the Palais Royal by Janet McNaughton. This book is inspired by the author's aunt's own experience immigrating to Canada in the 1920s. It takes place in late 1920s Toronto, and it's about Aggie, a girl who immigrates from Scotland to Canada to work as a domestic servant. After her older brother dies as a result of a mining accident, her older sister, Emma, comes up with a scheme to get their entire family away from the mine, and that involves first Emma immigrating to Canada, taking advantage of this reduced passage program that existed in the 1920s to encourage British girls to immigrate to Canada to work as domestic servants. And then once Aggie is old enough to qualify for the program, she follows Emma over to Toronto, where they are able to earn significantly more money than they would have in their small mining town in Scotland. So it follows Aggie's journey leaving her hometown somewhat unwillingly and immigrating to a new country, navigating life in a big city, and kind of exploring the different social classes in Toronto while working to earn money so that her family, her younger siblings, can follow eventually, and so that her younger brothers will never have to work in the mines. The next book is Irish Chain by Barbara Herath Attard. It takes place in Halifax in December 1917, and if you're familiar with Canadian history, you might know where this is going. Irish Chain is about a 13-year-old girl who survives the December 6, 1917 explosion in Halifax Harbor, and it takes place in the time immediately after that explosion, with her and her family kind of recovering from the explosion and mourning the members of the family that they lose, and being afraid for the members of the family who were injured. And pretty sure this is the first book that ever made me cry. This is probably a slightly toned down version of the events of Halifax Harbor. Rose was lucky enough that her aunt and uncle's home was still habitable after the explosion, so they had shelter to stay in and weren't stuck living outside in a temporary encampment when the blizzard struck. It doesn't even go into the blizzard. But as I said, I used to love historical fiction. I think it's a great way to learn about what life was like in other time periods and in other places, and I would really like to get back into reading it. Leave your recommendations for historical fiction books in the comment section. I'm open to any time period and any location. Thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day.